First, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed, liked, commented. I appreciate everything that you've said. No matter what you've said, I appreciate the likes. Please share this with your friends. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you hit that share button. We're trying to make sure that everybody know that they're not victims, that they're empowered for greatness, that we can make a difference again in this nation. That we can stand up for biblical values, we can stand up for truth and push back against all the lies and everything that's false that's taking place in this land. So I appreciate that. And please, thank you for looking at my videos and participating and making our voice known. So, for those of you who don't know, Ibram X. Kendi is a writer, he's a professor. He talks about how to be anti-racist. He talks about how America was systemically racist from its founding and how to overcome previous racism, you have to institute and implement current racism. In other words, you have to do what he calls like being anti-racist. In his opinion, means that black people must be racist towards white people. You must institute policies through government, socialism, and Marxism. Utilize the power of government to rectify the ills of the past, to rectify things that went wrong in the past. So what do? You implement policies. Use policies to correct the atrocities. It's all about a history of grievance and a history of atrocities and using government to correct those things. So he recently published an article in the Atlantic. Now you have to understand something. When liberals like an Ibram X. Kendi, for example, go to mediums like the Atlantic to publish things like this, you have to understand who his target audience is. You have to understand who he's looking to reach and who he's looking to motivate. Number one, this article, which its premise is that Republicans should not be talking about critical race theory. They should not be talking about LGBTQIA material in books and schools and protesting at school boards. No. No, they need to be looking at the internet, looking at Twitch, looking at these white supremacists that are online that are grooming their children. So what he's doing, he's speaking to his liberal base, number one, on the coastal elite, and he wants them to be motivated and activated to go out and vote. That's the whole premise behind this. And so what he's doing, he's using legitimate gripes that parents have, the majority of parents. He's using that and he's twisting it to say, no, you're concerned. No, don't look at that. Don't look at what we're doing in schools. Don't look at what we're trying to do, trying to indoctrinate your children. No, don't look at that. Look here. Look at these anecdotal examples of white supremacists online who are grooming your children, who are training your children how to be bigoted, who are training your children how to be homophobic. They're grooming white children. White. He talks more about white people than any black person I know. And that's intentional. Because people like him, when he talks about white supremacy, he really is elevating white people higher than black people. He's placing white people on a pedestal of being a god to black people. Because to him, white people are the ideal. And so what you have to do, you have to elevate black people, because black people do not have agency on their own. Black people are not smart enough, are not ambitious enough, are not dedicated enough, are not industrial enough to make it on their own. So what do you have to do? You have to use governmental policies to elevate black people. Elevate black people, because they can't do it on their own. They're not people that have free will. They're not people that are intelligent. They don't have the intellectual fortitude, the intellectual horsepower, if you will, to make it on their own. So what do you need to do? You have to tear down white people in order to build black people up. You got to institute policies such as anti-racist things to bring about equity. But you have to understand something. Equity to them means equity of outcomes, not equality of opportunity, not giving everybody the same opportunity. It is equity of the outcome. It is predetermining the outcome solely based on race, and that is racist. That is white supremacist. That is what white supremacy means. White supremacy
In a nutshell, when people used to practice it back in the 40s and 50s, it was the thought process that white people were the best. It's the thought process that Hitler had, that white people, that the Aryan race was supreme. And and what he doesn't realize is in these type of arguments, people like him, when they talk about things such as this, that's what they're doing. They're elevating white people in this nation. They're saying that black people do not have individual agency. And when he calls the Republican Party the party of white supremacy, that's essentially what it is. He's saying the Republican Party is not the party of parents, because there was a poll released that talked about how that white respondents rather opposed the teaching of critical race theory by 24 percentage points, while respondents of color were more than twice as likely to favor CRT than oppose it. And so he talks about how when Republicans talk about a parental backlash against CRT, they're not talking about all parents. They're only talking about white parents. Everything here is focused on white parents. But he fails to acknowledge that there were black parents that also opposed the teaching of critical race theory in schools.
Which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other. That's pretty much, I don't care what it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to personally tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How do I get, first of all, 2 medical degrees. No mom, no dad in the house. Worked my way through college. Sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff, because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't gonna be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't gonna let you get no, oh, you know you're not gonna be able to do it here because you know, the white man gonna keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I worked for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory? This the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing we're gonna say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they let this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. Y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much be on his grave with this nonsense. That's exactly what's about to happen.
And so you see here in this article, it's the same old tired playbook of identity politics. Painting the Republican Party as a party of white people, painting the Republican Party as a party of white supremacy, failing to acknowledge and realize the history of the Democratic Party. How the Democratic Party was a party of the KKK. How the Democratic Party was a party that was behind the Jim Crow laws in the South. Failed to realize that's the Democratic Party that has helped to institute policies that have degraded the black community. Failing to realize that it's the Democratic Party that is a party that is against black people, from welfare, from abortion, from supporting Black Lives Matter, an institution that calls for the destruction of the prescribed Western family, which in turn means removing the black man out the house. People like him in the Democratic Party, people that subscribe to ideas like his, are against the black man. I'm not absolving the Republican Party from this either, because the Republican Party, yes, it was started by abolitionists for the sole purpose of destroying and bringing down the institution of slavery. However, the Republican Party has not done a good job either when it comes to outreach, in particular outreach to the black man. They have a certain profile that they want a black Republican to meet. Most of them are clean shaven, most of them they look like somebody you can take to a country club. Those are the black men that they want in the Republican Party. You don't see too many black, now I'm not talking about Trump and DeSantis. Those candidates, those people, those office holders are outside the norm of a Republican. I want to be clear about that. I'm not talking about people like Trump. I'm not talking about people like DeSantis. I'm not talking about those kind of people, because DeSantis just signed a law that emphasizes the importance of a father in a home in Florida. So I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about your traditional RNC, those folks, the folks that are in the think tanks, the folks that are running it, those people, they have a profile that they want for a black man. And that black man has to look like somebody they can take to a country club, like a Carlton. The Republican Party, they want black people to be like Carlton, the old Carlton from the Fresh Prince. That's what they want. Republican Party, they want black people to be Carltons. Whereas the Democratic Party does not care at all about black men. The Republican Party want their black men to be like Carlton. So therefore, they are already profiling and removing a certain segment of the black community. So going back to what Kendi had wrote, the fact that the emphasis is on whiteness. And he talks about how this is a myth, why Republicans are not for all parents but white parents, because he talks about how these 4 myths, Republican politicians care about white children, that's a myth. Anti-racist education is harmful to white children. He says that's a myth. Republican politicians are protecting white children by banning anti-racist education. The Republican Party is a part of white parents because it's protecting white children. And so he calls that a fallacy, he calls that a myth. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. We must teach all history. I'm for teaching all history. I admit, the books in school that we've read, the books in school, for the most part, do not teach all history. They do teach a history that is slanted based upon the opinions of the celebration, if you will, the mythology of America, where it glosses over the atrocities of America that has been committed, not just to black people, but to all people, how it romanticizes those atrocities, which it shouldn't. It should teach all history, but teach it in a way that is fundamentally non-biased. Teach it in a way that tells the story without slanting it. Because I believe that every single piece of history should be taught. I believe that black history is a part of American history. I believe that you should talk about Benjamin Banneker. Don't just talk about Dr. King and talk about people during the month of February. These things should be intertwined throughout American history. When you talk about Reconstruction, when you talk about Crispus Attucks and the Revolution, see, things like that should be taught at the beginning. And most of the time it is not. And so that is failing white children because they're not learning how black people and other minorities were integral into the founding of this nation. But nevertheless, critical race theory in and of itself is wrong. Seeing everything through the lens of race is wrong because we are not victims. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. So he says that the Republican Party is a party of white parents. The Republican Party is a party essential of white supremacy. And it's so crazy that he is in turn elevating the thing that he wants to tear down. He is elevating white supremacy while he claims that he wants to be anti-racist and is against white supremacy. Because these things that he is talking about, these things that he is prescribing only add to the notion, only add to the perception that white people are here and black people are here. And that is what white supremacy is in essence. Critical race theory is white supremacy. And I reject that, and I reject anything that will elevate one person over the other. Because to me, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. We have the greater one on the inside of us, and no person is greater than the other. It's all about what does that person do with the opportunities that have been afforded to them. Because we are not victims. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness because the greater one lives inside of us. And no man is greater than God. I repeat that. No man is greater than God. So if you have God on the inside of you, you can achieve everything that you set your mind to do that is in alignment with God's will for your life. Because that is the ultimate indicator of whether or not you will have success, true success in life. We are not victims. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness.
Thank you so much for liking your comments and subscribing to the channel. Please share this with your friends. Smash that like button. Smash the subscription bell. Share this with everybody you know. We're trying to make sure people understand that they're not victims, that they are empowered for greatness, and all this stuff that's out here that's telling them otherwise is false and will not benefit them in the end. So please, I appreciate that. Share that.